You
So
can
you just
email
heard
them.
from him, Janelle?
Yeah, he's trying to get on right.
I can send him another email too if I need to.
I forwarded him your email from yesterday, or from this morning, whenever that was.
Oh boy.
Okay, I have got it because I wasn't sure if I had to start it or if it would start automatically in 3 minutes, but I started it and we are live now.
Okay.
All right, I'm admitting Jay right now. So, Mr. Trost, are you there?
There he is.
All right.
Looks like he might be muted there.
Yeah, he is.
Nope,
I will give it
there he
another 2 minutes
There he is.
officially just to be proper here. You there, Jay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Welcome.
Thanks.
We'll just wait till 5 o'clock straight up and get going here. We got real quiet now. Live.
Hi, Catherine. I guess different people pop up on here at different times. You can see,
Oh,
unless you get a whole bunch of different tiles up there.
I can see everybody to the left of my screen, but I'm using my iPhone, so
You can see Dee Dee and Chris, and
I can see Chris. I can see you. I can see. Well, Alan was there, but he's disappeared.
yeah, I think it only
Whoever's talking jumps up in the title, I think.
Okay, there you are, Jared. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you see everyone now, Jay, or just?
Oh, I can see just like I can see five of you at a time.
Yeah, that's about right for me too.
Well, I've got about 5 o'clock. You guys about ready to get going here officially?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go ahead and call this Brookings Harbor School Board meeting to order. So a couple things I just kind of want to start out by saying is just kind of how strange it is going to be in this first time virtual meeting. So I hope this all goes well. And if I drop off or anybody does, we can kind of muddle through the best we can. So I appreciate everybody's patience with that, as with most things these days, of course. Also, typically on our agenda, we'd have a Pledge of Allegiance. So again, we couldn't quite figure out how to pull that off real well in this environment. Oh, maybe we can pull it off. At least wanted to acknowledge that, we virtually recite the Pledge of Allegiance. So thank you, Jared. And then also typically we'd have a student report from one of our student representatives, Jennifer. So we're not going to have that this time either. So wanted to acknowledge her and the missing of that item on the agenda. Getting down here to item number 2, our citizen input. Again, as with our strange situation, we requested any questions be submitted before this meeting. And to my understanding, we did not get any submissions. Is that correct, Jared? Is that still the case?
That's correct. This is Dee Dee. I did not get any submissions.
Okay. Well, to anyone that may be out there that does have a question for the board, please feel free to reach out either to me or to Dee Dee at the district office, and we'll be sure to try to address any concerns folks have out there. So please know that that's an option. Okay. So the first real item here, number 3, the consent agenda. Looking for a motion to approve that.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A second. Thank you, Janelle. Any discussion on what we see here in front of us on the consent agenda? Okay. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. So, Catherine,
Aye.
Janelle,
Aye.
Janice,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
and I as well. We'll pass the consent agenda. Item number 4, district reports and information. This time I'll turn over the virtual console to Mr. Eberhardt, who's going to give us an update on our SIA plan, as well as kind of the general COVID response our district's been going through here the last month or so. So, Mr. Eberhardt?
Well, good evening. And just so you know ahead of time, I'm going to reverse those two. I'm going to talk about the COVID first. But
Okay.
I think I want to, first of all, let you know that as far as Brookings Harbor School District is concerned, I'll bet you this community has probably never learned more than we have in the last 5 weeks. When you think of learning about doing things in a different way and being stretched and having to be creative and learning how to communicate and all the different ways that we're being challenged to do right now, there is a whole lot of learning going on here. And I think we are as empathetic and as understanding as we've ever been. We're frustrated, we are afraid, and all of those things are part of learning. So I'm glad to see you all. I hope you're all well, because I know you're learning in ways too that maybe you've never been before. And personally and professionally, this is a challenging time, and I want to certainly acknowledge that sometimes we laugh and sometimes we laugh just to avoid crying, because this is a challenge for a whole lot of folks beyond the 97415 zip code. So good evening. Also want to let you know that there's a saying by Plato that says necessity is the mother of invention. And there's a whole lot of inventing going on right now as to how we navigate this and how we do it in an effective way. And I want to make sure that we are aware that patience and being understanding of that is critical. So since if I was to talk a little bit about the CODIV, I want to give you, in your board reports, you might see some of this, but there has been a whole lot of things that have been asked of us in ways that we never thought. And just for example, in the food category, Cindy Badger and her team, as of the end of last night, have probably prepared over 32,000 bags of food.
I saw her report said 25,000, and I was wondering if that was that extra digit, but really that many.
No, that was and last night we had another over 600 to 700. And one child that comes in is typically given 2 bags. And if they have 3 or more people or in their family, they receive 4 bags. So we are estimating that we're well over the 32,000 bag total. And we have one thing that we've tasked everyone to think about is something that's sustainable. And we have about 10 more weeks or 21 more times of providing food for our community. So that alone just gives you an understanding of kind of the vision that we have as we move forward. So a big kudos to Cindy and her team. Chris Schofield and the technology team has been asked to prepare over 1,000 Chromebooks to be checked out to families across the district. Now, we're very aware that some of our remoteness prevents everybody from being able to access the internet. So once again, we are being forced to be creative and reach and develop partnerships with whether it's the Cape Ferillo Fire Department or a different organization that has Wi-Fi. How can our students access the learning we're being asked to serve to them? So kudos to Chris and his team. The general ed team, the principals, each one of them, whether it's Nicole, Deanne, or Helena, they're being once again asked to serve students and understand how to somehow bring their teachers up to speed to serve and serve students in ways they had never been prepared to. And that started hopefully on Monday. If you have a child in the district, you've been able to see how that's being rolled out. And once again, there are glitches. We're going to learn on how to somehow serve in a more appropriate way. and Angela and her special ed team are struggling every day to figure out what that looks like to serve a student with the special needs. And the guidance in all of these areas has been a bit challenging at times, and we have to be patient too with our leaders at the state and actually at the federal level, because this is an unprecedented moment. So I want to make sure we understand that we're looking for sustainability. We're looking at something that is doable for the next 10 and a half weeks for us until June 17th. And remember, this all started 1 month ago. March 13th, Friday, March 13th was the first time that we heard anything about school being canceled. So in a little over four weeks, we have done a lot. So I think we need to keep that in perspective. Once again, there are over 30,000 bags of food that's preparing and serving, over 1,000 computers that is going to digital learning or distance learning for all students. That is bringing people together in this environment in a way that many of them really had to be taught, how do I do a Google Hangout? So we are learning. Do you have any questions for me about the COVID and what we're doing in regards to our response, and that everybody? Let me share a few things I have mentioned that I didn't share before first. We do have some of the initial concern from the state was around making sure that seniors have a pathway to graduate. And currently at the high school level, they have reached out to every senior that is on track or not on track to graduate, and messaging to them what the rest of their year will look like. We're getting bombarded, of course, with questions about things such as graduation and prom and all those things. And many of those they're just simply unknowns. With graduation, that's 2 months away. So I would hate to make us, hate to us be thinking that we're going to make a decision right now on April 15th. That would be maybe paint us into a corner. So we want to be thoughtful and let things kind of learn and become more clear to us. And that going back to one of my first comments, and that is we have to be very patient. So we've reached out to the seniors, and now we're waiting for guidance on the students that are in grades 9 through 11. And the difference there is students who graduate from Oregon have to have 24 high school credits, and that is spread out over a 4-year course. And what are we going to do with students who cannot access education from March 13th on? Will those students will they be awarded credit? Will they not be awarded credit if they're not able to somehow engage in this type of learning? Every district in the state has been asked to reach out to their students, and there are some students in the state that they have not been able to contact. And we don't know the circumstances that are around that. Many students' families became uprooted as soon as jobs were lost. And so we are trying to make sure that however we move forward, that all students have a chance to access whatever we're moving forward with. And that's a challenge.
Chris, I had a question in regards to our own school district. How is that looking in terms of contacting all our students? Do we have some that we haven't been able to contact?
We have some, I believe, that have not been contacted. We will meet as an admin team tomorrow, and we will talk about that. How are we doing with that? Because that's one thing that we believe is important, and we're tasked with doing is reaching out to all of our students and making sure there's a contact. So the percentage, I will know more about that tomorrow afternoon. And if we had all the principals, they would be able to share that. But that's one thing they're tasked with, is a weekly contact with their students.
Do we have a percentage of how many seniors don't have the ability to get access to the internet and be able to do online?
So, and that would, and Deanne Veritek and her team have been addressing that. And we have those students that did not have access. We have checked out a laptop. We also purchased over a month ago, we actually ordered 50 hotspots. So we've created situations where they can have access to a hotspot so they can get to the internet. Now, there are of course, there are unique situations, because when you have a large number of students, you have unique situations. So some of them might not need a course that maybe they're passing their course as of March 13th, which if a student was passing their course on March 13th, they were essentially given credit for the entire year. But if they were missing a course from their sophomore year, let's say sophomore biology, maybe they have an Edgenuity class that they're making up. So we have some students that are done now with everything they were currently enrolled in, but have to fill some gaps. So they're working on online courses in that way, and then having access to a place to do that in a suitable way. If they don't have, if they're in a remote location, is a challenge. So we're trying to find hotspots. trying to partner once again with community organizations that would allow a student to pull up, because you have social distancing requirements. You can't just go to a coffee shop.
Right.
And so how do you do that in a way that makes sense? Are we going to print packets for students? Yes, we're going to go to the ends of the earth to make sure that students have a chance to graduate. And the percentage of them is being whittled down every day because the teachers were tasked with finding out what grades needed to be completed and then started to push those out on Monday of this week. So.
I didn't have any more questions. I just want to acknowledge the work that you guys are doing. As I've stayed tuned to what's been going on in our own state and listening and participating in as many meetings as I can online just to get a sense, and just thank you. I hope that if all the admin are on or can hear this, that I guess I get a little bit emotional about what you guys are doing.
Yeah. There's some peaks and valleys, and we're very aware that we are not alone in this. And this is, at the other end, we've really tried to be thoughtful about what is it like on the user end. And a few of you, have children in your own home that are being challenged in ways, and relationships that parents have with their students and siblings and stuff is going to be challenged in ways that we're probably going to take some lumps along the way. And look at people in a different way. Your dog might look at you in a different way because you don't leave the house anymore. So we're prepared for some of those things. So, and then eventually the guidance for the middle school and the elementary is just to not hold students harm. They don't want them to be harmed in any way for things that are beyond their control. So what that looks like as far as accountability around attendance and grades and things like that, we need to be really thoughtful about that. And we don't know the exact answer, because once you create a scenario, then someone says, well, what about this? So I think we're all moved forward with every grade. Every teacher is reaching out to their students and creating a sensible educational plan for them that moves them forward. And with the high school students, some of it will end with credit, and some of it will end with incompletes, and then they'll have an opportunity to make up that incomplete in the following semesters. So that's probably all I have with the COVID response at this time. Okay, I wanted to now change and share with you the SIA grant was due today, and that seems like eons ago, but I wanted to share with you this particular, where we are at with that now. So I'm going to present. Can you all see that?
I can't.
You can't. Okay.
Well, I can't. I have my video on and I can't see. Or did you?
Jared and folks, can you guys see?
No, I wonder if Jared needs to stop presenting for a bit so you can have that spot.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, so let's do it one more time. This would be our first glitch, maybe. So let's try it again. And is it there? Can you see the slide that I have?
No.
No.
Not
How about
sure
now?
why. Nope.
Not
Okay, well,
You want to email it to me? I can put it up.
yeah, let me share it with you, Jared. And see what happens there.
Chris, this is Janice.
Yes. Hi, Janice.
If there is something on your slide that I need to see, could you email it to me?
Sure, I can send you a
and I
link.
can look at it tomorrow.
And I'll just share with you a little bit. So what we were given, we were some. Oh, maybe there it is. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I got
There we
it.
go.
Oh,
So
yes.
So there's essentially the timeline that we were given many, many months ago, and we are down in the March and the April where we are supposed to be applying for the student investment account. There was a ton of work that went into that, and the next slide, Jared, if you would put that in there, show that one. You can see we did a lot of gathering of input from various groups, from the district leadership team to the state report card to the Office of Civil Rights report, community surveys, grocery store canvassing, needs assessments at every level in the district, classified and certified climate surveys, grades, climate surveys in K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. We had attendance, engagement, curriculum, grading, and systems of supports focus groups. We had staff, SIA survey, staff or SIA focus groups, healthy teen survey, Dr. Seuss night. We collected a lot of information. So I think we need to be thoughtful that this helped guide a lot of our work in short-term planning, but also some long-term planning. So from that, we then were able to, if you could switch to the next one, Jared, we had to then focus our $1.28 million, which I'm sad to report, we are not going to receive $1.28 million. We do not know what we're going to receive really at all right now. We were told that we should not even present any hiring, which we had thought about in our plan. We were going to try and increase our electives in K-12 by creating a 1-year budget and a 3-year plan. We were going to increase our mental health supports, health and safety improvements, look at different professional development, facility upgrades on a 3-year plan, and technology upgrades on a 3-year plan. So we had put into play many thoughts about what we would do with the input we received from the community, and that has changed. So what we need to be doing now is thinking about if we receive some SIA dollars, which we aren't going to know for a while, what will we do with those? So we did submit our SIA grant. I did that today. And there's a slide that you'll see in a second. But one thing we were able to hold on to, if you could pull up the next one, Jared, that we thought was it was from the Early Learning Fund, was we are still going to partner with the Head Starts, and because that money was allocated previous to this, it was allocated from previous year's budget. We are going to partner with Head Start, and we are going to add preschool slots to our community, and that is going to be done through in collaboration with Head Start. So that is something that will be happening. We will be remodeling a bit of our space, and we are going to apply part of that grant to get some of those dollars. So the next slide there is, it talks there a little bit about some of the leeway we were given. Part of the SIA, you were to have a public forum, and it's a little bit challenging to have a public forum when you can't get into groups. So they're going to allow us opportunities as we move forward, somehow do that. But I think it's a little bit odd to be planning for something that is so unsure. So we're going to hold off on any kind of virtual meeting. We did submit the grant, which we were able to do without board approval because the public meeting has to occur before the board approval. And that all got a little bit wonky. Our goal was to present the SIA last month. And I think in the last month, we know it just has not been normal. So we did submit the grant today. It is on our webpage. It is in a little bit of an incomplete format. Most of it's done. There's just the 5-year growth targets that are not completed, but everything else is in the grant, and it does outline still those areas that we gathered through the data that were pretty much the community and the collective vision of our district on how we would support better all students. It is up on our website, like I said, and it has been submitted to the state, and we just need to probably sit and hunker down and make it through these other challenges, and then see how, if we continue to have social distancing limits and businesses and industries are not able to bring back and bring revenue. It's a little bit of a challenge to think about how we'll be raising revenue to put into play the SIA.
Right. Okay. Yeah, like everything seems to be. All best plans are thrown into question now, it feels like. So, kind of aware how the SIA all of a sudden has changed for us. So.
Yeah. But we had to let you know where we were at because it was due today. They didn't change that guideline, and had to be submitted.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the going forward with the partnering with Head Start, to acknowledging that those are funds we know we are allocated and that we can use. So I really appreciate that.
That'll be a win.
Yes, that will be a huge win.
Thank you, Mr. Eberhard. Appreciate the thoughts there. Any other questions from the board on this with the superintendent right now? Okay, moving forward here, just kind of acknowledge our building reports. Of course, they're very COVID focused, and to echo Catherine earlier, gosh, I can't give a big enough thank you and hang in there to our staff and our everyone that's kind of making this work right now. So appreciate all the efforts there.
I also want to acknowledge the fact that we had 1,000 Chromebooks. I know that that's something that we've ramped up in the last 4 to 5 years, and I just so very thankful that work was put in to make that happen, so that we were in a place that we could be a resource to our students. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, good point. We had, at least from my point of view, it sounds like most of the equipment mostly on hand. So that sure feels like it made this a little bit of an easier transition to distance learning, at least. So that's very nice.
Hey, Chris, you mentioned you had hotspots ordered a month ago. Did you guys have that order in before things happened, or did you just do it immediately?
Well, Jared and I, we have this crystal ball.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
At the moment, though.
Yeah. What'd you say, Jared?
What we did was we were planning on, we've been kind of in the works. Deanne Veritek has wanted to go one-to-one at the high school. So every student would have a Chromebook that they were issued when they came in as a freshman, and that would be their Chromebook. They would take it home and use it all the time until they graduated. So she's would want to implement that. We've been kind of working on that all year. And so one of the things that we've been thinking about is, okay, what about the kids who don't have internet at home? So what are we going to do with them? So we could spend some Measure 98 money on technology for that. So we originally were going to only order 30 hotspots because I didn't know exactly how many we needed. And then the guy called me and said, hey, everybody in the nation basically wants these things. So if you need more, you better tell me now. So we went ahead and did 50. And then we're going to probably hand all of those out by, I don't know, maybe the end of next week. So I've got 20 more that are coming that will be here on Friday. So basically for 50 hotspots, it's about $2,000 a month for the data plan for those 50 hotspots. So.
And you said 20 more coming, so we'll have a total of 70?
20 more will be here on Friday, which will put us at 70, which basically makes us be able to cover about 5% of our student body with if they don't have any
Jared?
kind of access. Yeah.
Jared, this is Janice. All of a sudden, my volume got really low and I cannot, you're just kind of mumbling. And it's up, mine is up to the top.
Okay. So what I was saying was that we already had a plan to kind of get wireless for students that didn't have it. So we were kind of in the works. We just kind of bumped that plan up. And we're able to get 50 hotspots ready to go, and we have 20 more on the way. So we'll have 70 by the end of the week.
Got it. That's amazing.
Having them is awesome. However, our technology team has been kind of going around the community, up in the hills a little bit and down in areas, and seeing where they can actually receive a signal. And sadly, there's some places that are really hard to get a signal for a hotspot, cell phone. So if we're expecting those students to do distance learning, it's a bit of a lift for them.
Yeah, we discovered that Rob, before he was on duty with SRO, he had a T-Mobile hotspot that he would take in his patrol for them, and it was all over town, and discovered there's still a lot of blank spots. So dead spots.
Yep. Okay. Go ahead. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on then. Any comments on the finance report from anyone?
Okay, but I'm still not getting good volume. I'm barely hearing anyone.
Janice, I your phone because I'm on a phone and I can hear everybody.
Yeah, maybe you should.
I could too, but then it just all of a sudden went down.
you want to go ahead and hang up and come back in, and we will wait for you to come back in? Maybe something happened.
That's a good idea. I'll do that.
Okay.
So how's that extra budget piece hit us, Jared? The several $1,000s a month or whatever the cell phone bill is going to be.
So I was going to pay for the $2,000 out of the Measure 98 money because that's fully funded this year, and now it's probably not going to be fully funded next year. So yeah, it's going to be
A challenge.
one of those things. Yeah.
You back, Janice?
Yes, and it solved the problem.
Any better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Speaking of cell phones, yeah. On the finance summary, I just kind of wanted to just pose the question, I guess, Jared, since we're talking a little bit about it. I see, a lot of the brackets here on the variances. And I know you had heard a comment from you yesterday about, we're kind of over budget in a few spots. Is there something you could speak to on kind of your sheet you had here about where we're out of line?
Yeah, so basically, we're always kind of over and under here in these areas, just the way we budget stuff. This is the 1,000 function and 2,000 function with us being shut down and not spending, our garbage bill is going down, our electricity bill is going down. So I haven't really worked on the projections too much as to kind of where we're going to be. We've been taking a lot of POs out that we know we're not going to need. So that's kind of just started in the last week or so. So
we're not a real accurate picture forecast wise, at least.
Yeah, it was when it was made.
Sure.
And now who knows, right? But yeah. So
when I see $1.8 million in the red here, it looks like on that variance. I just want to ask the question.
Where are you seeing?
Well, that bottom variance, 1.765 to the unfavorable.
Oh, yeah, and that's from the forecast. The forecast is, I'm using forecast 5 to kind of do this, and like I said, it has everything that we would have spent in there. So it's not quite accurate at the moment. I think that number is going to go down for sure.
Well, I guess especially since against the forecast, I can see where that's going to be.
Yeah, and that 1.75 includes that 1.4 we have in contingency. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I think maybe next month I'll move that maybe somewhere else so it doesn't look like we have that huge number there. Because really you're looking at 350 right here is where you're looking at.
Right above it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
well, my eye falls to the bottom line.
Money. And so I think I'll do some rearranging at this point. But
and I'm assuming after another month of the schools being closed, you have a better sense of what money we haven't spent and how that flushes with what we are spending. That's not normal.
Additional,
yeah. And I just heard today that we're getting a little more money than I had anticipated from our ESD flow through. So that money is not calculated in here. We won't get that until the end of the year, but it'll be counted as revenue. So we'll actually have a little more revenue than I had anticipated. So.
Every nickel helps.
Which is good because we're losing money on the state school fund because of our enrollment. So, get it one place and lose it another place. So,
and my understanding is that the state is locking us in for December for ADW.
Yeah, AD&W has been locked in for second quarter. I have some people even in the South Coast who are not happy about that because they had a lot of people come in, like 70 students in January. So they feel like they should get credit for those kids, but at this point they're not. So which is good for us because it was a little higher in December than it was in March. So
right.
So is that just going to hold that number the rest of the year? Is that the
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
And that's what the 2021 forecast or projection will be based on is that number. So then they'll have to do. And what they expect is, a lot of kids are kind of
An eye on
when it first started, I think a lot of parents were moving kids to online school because they figured they could continue to go to school there, right? Well, now that, so they figure all this jumping is going to happen. And then when September comes around, and if we get back to school in September, things will kind of settle down and those kids will probably come back because,
Must be something to watch. I think is who knows what the behaviors of that is going to be, but I can see the scenario where we might kind of have some drift off to other avenues. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Especially with if people lost their jobs here and they had to leave.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
certainly
they
that.
got kids. I mean, our ADMW could drop even more. Who knows? So kind of scary.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we kind of talked about the enrollment summary there. Anybody else have a thought on that? Okay, on the action item portion here, item A is the approval of the second reading of these 32 board policies. So I'd be looking for a motion to approve those second readings on those.
I'm going to approve the second reading.
Thanks, Ray.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on these list of policies here? Okay, let's go ahead and move for a vote then. Catherine.
Aye.
Janelle.
Aye.
Denise.
Aye.
Jay.
Aye.
And I as well. Okay, thank you. Item B, move to accept these new and revised job descriptions for an athletic activities director and a SPED behavior support specialist. We're looking for a motion for those approvals.
I will make a motion to approve the new and revised job descriptions for athletic and activities director and SPED behavior support specialist.
Get a second on that, anyone?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on these two job descriptions here?
I do have I'm looking at education and experience under the athletic director, and I don't see where it mentions supervisory type of experience. That's a little bit of concern of mine that we would hire somebody that has no supervisory type experience, basically supervising their peers and evaluating. Is that somewhere else and I'm just not seeing it, Chris?
It says supervise athletic staff right here. I don't know if you can see the screen or not, but the first one under athletics.
Okay, I see it. And then in terms, was this budgeting for these two positions not dependent on SIP money? Where were we at with these? I think we posted for one of them, didn't we? Or were we in the process of posting?
The athletic director is posted, and we've actually received a few applications already. Where we're at with the budget at this point, I am worried about actually hiring that position. So that's a discussion that we are going to have here in the next month or so. Just because of the way our funding has been dropping. And so, yeah, it's something we're going to have to talk about.
So if I'm correct though, these positions were not necessarily based on the SIP plan, but something separate, correct? Is that right, Chris?
Yes, the behavior or the special ed position was actually on staff right now. We have a person, we just changed the job description on that to better suit what the person does. And it used to be a teacher position, and we have put more language in that to specify what it actually did do. The activities and athletic director position was budgeted from last year, and all we did was modify the job description and put it out there so we could at least advertise for it, because it was in the budget and from last year to this year. Now, as Jared said, as we look at the forecasting and our enrollment, it becomes a little bit of a heavy lift here to make sure that we could somehow bring that person into our staff at this time.
One thing I read that some of the districts in our state are doing, which I thought was wise, was if we get to the point of extending an offer to somebody, having in the offer written contingent upon available funds. I think that would be a wise thing to have.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So.
We could certainly look at that as we decide how to move forward with particularly that position. I think the SPED behavior support specialist is one that's already been in there, and as you know, the budget was allocated for the other position, but that was used other ways, other means this year.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was all I had, Alan.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I know there's certainly more budget discussions right now, so
Yeah.
seems like a little more formality to get the description approved, and then we'll have to kind of have the harder discussion, perhaps, of how it fits in dollar wise. So.
I'm sorry. There's one I do want to acknowledge with the athletic director. Good job on including all the other clubs and activities, so that's a broad support system for all students. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, any comments on these job descriptions right now? Okay, let's go ahead and call for a vote of approval. Catherine?
Aye.
Janelle?
Aye.
Denise?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
And I as well. Okay, item C, approval of the MOU with the BHEA for the 2021 calendar year. We're looking for a motion to approve this MOU.
Quick question. Is there any commission discussion on this one real quick?
Let's call for
Should we
approval and we can discuss.
Yeah.
Let's get approval.
I'll call for a motion so that we can discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And a second, anybody?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, let's go ahead and ask a question, Jay.
Yeah, so now does this, this is for the 2021 total calendar, right,
Yeah,
Chris?
next school year. Now, I did have a question as well, but maybe you'll ask the same.
Jared, why don't you kind of give the framework for that, because you've spent a whole lot of time trying to put that together. So tell the story.
Okay, so Dee Dee can help me if I get off track. But right now, in our current CBA, teachers work 7.75 hours a day. And so that added some time, that extra kind of week on our calendar for this year. So we're going on kind of an extra week more than anybody else is. So we felt if we could get the teachers to be working 8 hours a day, we could cut those days off and go a week less of school. And to be able to do that, they're actually working about 17 hours more over the course of the year. So we threw in a 1% increase in their salary schedule, which works out to about $35,000 for the year. But then, so that's kind of the basic plan.
So essentially substituting 2 hours for 1%.
I'm sorry?
So I said essentially substituting the 17 hours for 1%.
Yes. Yeah, they're working 17 more hours this way. So we, 1% kind of works out to that kind of money. Dee Dee, you had something else?
Well, I just wanted to say this is similar to what we did 2 years ago to reduce the days on the end, because the 180 instructional days made a really long calendar for everybody. So this was something that the parents thought was long. By adding those 15 minutes a day, was able to shorten that.
And it was 7 hours and 55 minutes, which is
So last we went from 7.75 to 7 hours and 55 minutes. And that's where all those strange times came, where the kids were being released at odd times because of those minutes. 8 hours is a lot cleaner.
Does that translate? So when you say they're working 17 hours more, what does that translate into student contact time? Have we reduced student contact time by taking away those days?
Yes, we did reduce student instructional days by 4, and we took basically those days and we were able to come up with some more professional development days. For example, the one that we had to add to the calendar, we embedded an instructional a PD day in October, I believe it is, and then one again in March, I think it was. And so we gained a couple days in April. So we gained two some of those times, and we were able to essentially we are way above on instructional hours. We are like a week ahead of most schools in the southwest and southwestern coast of Oregon. And so we brought our schedule more in alignment with them, particularly going to 8 hours. So even though we did lose 4 instructional days, we added 15 minutes per day to the teacher's workday. And the schedule is not completed for next year as far as the actual Bell schedule, so we'll know more exactly what those instructional hours look like for next year.
And how that 15 minutes translates to student contact time during the
Yes.
day? Okay.
On the
Yeah, 'cause I know-
MOU, it says- I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Janice. No, you go ahead, Janice.
On the MOU, it says we went from 184 days of student instruction to 174 days. That's 6 days. Are you just remembering wrong, or?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Has there been a
Yes, my bad, Janice. Yes, I was looking below. Yes, you're right.
Okay.
So here's something that I am struggling with a little bit, because I remember it as a board, I think I'm the only one left on the board that made this decision, when we made this decision to add those 4 days. And part of the reason why it looks like we end later is because we couldn't start earlier in the school year because we've been having the seismic updates going on campus, and they needed as much time in the summer as they could possibly get. And the intent was behind the research that supported those additional days. And so it's just a little bit, I'm struggling with having this presented now with everything that's going on, given that I know that there was a lot of thought and process that went into having those 4 days and extra 4 days, and now we're going to losing 6. And I understand the thought process behind it, but I also want to make sure that Chris, I respect that we're, different from other school districts, but I want to do what's best for our students. And there was an immense amount of research that went into why we added those days in the first place. And I'm not sure if that research was given its ability to, what is the purpose behind why we're doing this right now? Is this because they asked to change it?
Well, we have limited PD time, which we had a challenge with this year, and to acquire at least 2 more PD days, we had to change the schedule, and that was part of it. The calendar discussion around that, going from 7 to get to an 8-hour day, which it creates. So anytime that you then extend the day by half an hour or 45 minutes, then you find yourself writing yellow slips and extra time things. So just to clean it up in regards to just the paperwork and the equity was also part of our conversation in there as well.
Okay.
And I know, yeah, the timing is a bit odd right now. We know that.
But we did start it way before all this went down too.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I respect that. And so we added 2 PDs for next year. Is that what
Right.
it is? Okay.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah.
Okay.
As well as I imagine that part of the goal is to change the end date in June, right? I mean, it sounds like that was.
Yeah.
So, Jared, can I ask a question? You gave a number. Sorry, what did 1% of salaries equal?
It's about $35,000 is what it's going to be increased.
This is certified staff.
Certified staff only, yeah.
135.
No, just 35,000.
Okay, and I'm messing something up on the numbers. So the 15 minutes a day for the entire school year ends up being 14 additional work hours. Is that a net 14 or an increase?
That's an increase, yeah.
So they're losing 4 days. They're losing 4 days total, adding 2 in-service days and subtracting 6 instructional days. So they're getting 4 less days that they have to work, but working 15 minutes a day still minus 32 hours is at plus the end of the day.
Exactly.
Got it.
And also keep in mind with that 35,000, we'll have 4 days at the end of the school year that we won't have substitutes to pay.
Yeah. Which is a sad thing that we would have to keep that in mind. But Dee Dee, I appreciate you bringing that up. Because that's a lot of money.
I think it's sad that we have to negotiate 15 minutes a day, but that's
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was when I first got here. I was like, teachers don't work 8 hours a day. Okay, that's kind of strange, but it was what it was. So.
You've already your
Sorry?
draft budget, Garrett. In your drafting,
I'm sorry?
this is already the additional 1% is already included.
In the budget that we're doing now, yes.
Yes, and what was the increase for July 1st prior to this additional 1?
The CBA has a 3% COLA.
So it'll
Yeah. It'll be 4 for the certified. Yes.
be okay. The CPI is like 2.4. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
That's something that's hard.
Yeah, but if you look at our salary schedule compared to the rest of the state, we're on the low end of that. So
So part of that's kind of considered a catch up a little bit.
the 3% is definitely, I think, considered a catch up. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They made us work at the mill. We had to leave.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the explanation there. Any other comments on the MOU?
We were legally abiding by the 15 minutes.
Okay, let's go ahead and call for a vote of approval then. Catherine,
Aye.
Janelle,
I
Janice,
Aye.
Jay,
I
and I as well. Next item, the 2021 academic calendar. Looking for a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the 2021 draft calendar.
can I second it with a question?
You can second, and then let's have some discussion. Please ask your question. Thank you.
So the draft calendar includes the MOU that we just approved.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, my impression is this calendar that we're looking at there, incorporates the changes to the dates, and that's why the MOU is necessary, I suppose, to complement each
Yeah,
other.
we were going to be the 18th would been our last day, and now it's not. Now we're on the 11th. So
I always forget what's.
Too. Right?
And we do have students starting a week before Labor Day as well. It's just the way the calendar falls. And it's the same as districts across the state.
Oh, that's just awful.
Well, Labor Day is not until the 7th, it looks like.
That like never happened when I was a kid, and it happened once a few years ago, and I thought it was just a plain mistake. I thought we learned
Right.
it, and we're going to repeat that.
Yeah.
I always find it to make it so is it looks like to me those are the color coding on that draft calendar looks like not days, right?
looks like what?
I see, because Labor Day falls on the 7th. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm following you. It didn't
Yeah,
look like
we'll start on 31st, but Labor Day's on the 7th. So
Okay, that was throwing me off.
Yeah, I had to look twice there too, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
Monday the 31st, first day of school. So yeah. Okay, let's look for a vote to approve the academic calendar here. Catherine,
Aye.
Nell,
I
Janice,
Aye.
Jay,
I
and I as well. Next up, looking for a motion to approve a long-term leave request from Mr. Titman. We looking for a motion here.
I'll make a motion to approve Titman long-term leave request.
Thanks, Janice. Anyone else?
And again, I'm sorry, I'm full of questions.
Okay, I hear a second from Janelle and open for discussion. Janelle, yeah.
So I'm having trouble when I read it. Is he leaving it open-ended, like he can come back anytime in that year, or is he asking for the entire year off? It seems like it'd be hard to hold a position open for part of the year.
Yeah, I think he was requested for the entire year.
Okay, and then he just will give notice by April whether he plans on coming back the following.
Yes.
Jared, can you put that back up for a second?
Sure.
I did have a question. Maybe it's a DD question. Is this something typically it needs board approval?
Yeah, and that goes by the contract language, that article that he's referring to, 18H.
Okay.
You did one 2 years ago for Wade Bell, who similarly did the same thing.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, last year.
So essentially, we are, by approving this, we're saying that when he comes back the following year, he has his position, correct?
The language is not, I don't have the contract in front of me. It may not be the exact position, but yes, a similar position.
And he'll still be the president of the union?
No, he wouldn't be, no,
That's a
he wouldn't
different
be,
set of circumstances. Yeah, I mean, suppose
Yeah.
if his membership votes him in, that would be a different set of story there. But yeah.
yeah, it's very different.
Okay. Well, I guess if it's part of the contract,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that. There's
Yeah,
much
we have.
to talk about.
I trust you guys that you did your due diligence in this area. It's always a concern because what do we do for that year? He's got a position that's of significant importance, and just to hire somebody and say, well, you got a guaranteed job for a year, which is, hard. So.
Yeah. Well, it's also part of the agreed terms.
Yeah.
Agreement there. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Nope. Happy to help folks get more educated as well, though. So I wait against that. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. On the flip side, his desire to become more educated, and he will learn things that will undoubtedly benefit our school district if he chooses to come back.
Just a quick question, Mr. Everhart. So
Yeah.
the Article 18H of our collective bargaining agreement, it does identify continuing education as a reason for long-term leave of absence.
What are you asking
So-
about that?
I have it here. Do you want me to present it so you can see what the actual contract says? Or
Yeah, that would be great.
okay. So this is 8 here. So, and this is where it ends the laugh right here. So.
And it has been the practice that given if they do it within the constraints of the contract, it's traditionally approved by the superintendent and the board would be presented to the board for final approval.
So, so there's really no parameters. It just says you just have to provide a reason.
That's correct.
And, I guess, are we looking, then we would fill that with a temp?
But you would hire someone and say, this person has taken an unpaid year leave of absence. They're pursuing education. And at the end of this time, they would have the opportunity to be offered this job back if they say they would enjoy coming back by April 15th. And if not, that person would then have that position. So, and that's part of the conditions of hiring the person to do the work, is you tell them up front, which is not unusual in education, that people are given a period of time to go and advance their learning and come back to the district.
Okay.
Okay, I appreciate that, Jared. And yeah, good question there, Jay. That's good to know. Okay, let's go We've moved towards a vote of approval here. So, Catherine,
Aye.
Janelle,
Aye.
Janice,
Aye.
and Jay.
Aye.
Aye as well. Okay, next up, approval of the revised 2021 budget calendar. So again, we've alluded to this here. Actually, let's go ahead and look for a motion to approve the calendar, then we'll discuss anything. So looking for a motion here.
I'll move to approve the new budget calendar, the revised budget calendar.
Second.
Okay, moving second. So again, I just kind of want to acknowledge, I think we've touched upon this a little bit, Jared, but just given our uncertainty and the lack of change of focus, I guess, over the last month, I know you're looking to kind of push us back and revise a few things. Is that?
Yeah, and I think the thing about budgeting is, so they told us that, you know, we're going to get $1.28 million with the SIA fund. So we go and we make this big plan of what we're going to use it. And now they say, well, we don't know how much of that money you're going to get. So the plan would be to go ahead and just budget for that $1.2 million, knowing that we're not going to get it. But I don't want to try to figure out what we're going to get, right? So if I say, well, they said we're going to get 500,000, and then we budget for 500,000, and somehow we get 700 or 800,000, then we're looking at a supplemental budget to come back and try to spend that money. So the thinking would be that we want to try to go ahead and budget what we think, you know, what we're planning on getting anyways, and then we won't spend that money if we don't get it, but at least we have, you know, the budget authority to do that. We are going to be getting some money from the CARES Act, which is one of those federal acts that they're doing here. And so a lot of that money can be used for things like technology and training and stuff like that. The problem is, at this point, we know we're going to get some of it. We don't know how much we're going to get. So my hope is that by pushing off the meeting for another month, I can have a lot better feel for how much money we would be expecting in that, because I need to try to budget for that money or we won't be able to spend it. So to come up with, you know, how much of that money we're actually going to receive, we'll know more by the end of April to where that's going statewide. So that's kind of my thinking, is that I'd really like to kind of push it back so we can include all the revenue that we could possibly include in the budget.
So, Jared, one of the things that I was reading that some of the other school districts are doing in our state, and I don't know if this is, and it's, you know, easier said than done. I was on the Forecast 5 thing, and I saw the different, you know, okay, well, maybe we'll get 10% of it, or, you know, 10% less, or 20, you know, certain levels of what we
that was
could.
For the FAA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it possible for us to, for you to bring something to us that has different levels based on, you know, estimates, so that we can at least have a snapshot of what, if we do get this much, then this is what we're going to be able to do. If we get this much, I know it's a lot of estimating, but
yeah,
it might be.
We can definitely do that. I mean, I would recommend budgeting for the whole amount, and then knowing, I mean, then with those estimates, we could know what we would be able to do with that money if we got those certain percentages.
Okay. So
Makes
you
sense?
could show, yeah, and then from that you could show us if we got, getting a less percentage, what that would look like in terms of what we
wouldn't be able to spend the money on because
Okay.
of how much we didn't get. Yes.
That would be great, because that would be very helpful to be able to see. Thank you.
Yep, we can do that.
Jared, this is Janice.
Yeah.
I also noticed that you've got on April 11th the first publication of Notice of Budget Committee meeting, and you've also got it on May 8th. I'm wondering if you need to cross off the April 11th one.
No, so the April 11th one already happened. So it was in the paper already because we had already been in the process of that. So I think we are running that again, that the whole ad, and it just says postponed. Because there's budget law that says you have to do it within 30 days, but not before 5 days. And so there's all this language of when you have to post for your notices that you're going to have a hearing or a budget committee meeting. So we did it already, but now we're not having that meeting. So now we have to do it again within 30 days of the next day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be looking for a vote here on the budget calendar. So we got anything else? All right, Catherine,
Aye.
Janelle,
I
Janice,
Aye.
okay,
Aye.
and I as well. Okay, thank you for that. Remaining here, we have just some couple things to talk about, some degree. A couple of these things, the next items here are don't really have the answers yet. We can kind of talk through them here. So future DLT meetings. Steve Kelly has reached out to Dee Dee and I here maybe late last week or a few days ago, and essentially suggested that we are not going to be able to hold the May 6th or 8th was it DLT meeting. And that makes all the sense in the world given the fact it would require gathering, 70 people in a room or whatever it was. So Steve had a couple options on how to handle that and some recommendations. And in fact, I'm going to get on the phone with him tomorrow and kind of walk through those. So I don't have the answers tonight, but he had a couple ideas. I don't know if he sent an email to Dee Dee and I know if we want to talk through that, Dee Dee, or that makes sense just to maybe get Steve's hard recommendations on the phone tomorrow and kind of maybe circulate that via some other method.
Yeah, maybe we should do that because there was like multiple options here.
Yeah, he laid out, I don't know, 2 or 3. Well, you could do this, or you could do, A, B, C, or some combination of all these. So anyway, so we have a time tomorrow to kind of walk through that and kind of work out a good plan that I can then bring back to the board and kind of get it set in stone that way.
Alan, is this plan looking at next year as opposed to, okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
I should say, okay, good,
was.
but I think that's the last thing we want to be putting on our staff right now.
Yes, no, exactly. Right. And just
So.
social distancing alone, let alone workloads. And Steve had a pretty good little paragraph on why it's a bad idea to even think about that right now, which I agree with.
Okay.
But that also kind of folded in on these next couple topics here, the Promise Scholarship and the superintendent evaluation. He seems to have thoughts on kind of maybe some approaches we can take on each of these things. And I guess I'm not real prepared to talk to them in any detail right now, just because I want to talk through Steve and hear the words and throw the ideas around a little bit before I just kind of regurgitate his email. So,
Yeah, I'm okay waiting.
yeah, so no concrete things there other than to let you know that it's all kind of up in the air. And he even said in his email that he, held off even reaching out to me until after the governor's order that schools were closed for the rest of the year here recently, just to make sure.
So is just one clarification. I'm assuming that the other thing discussing is how we can still do a superintendent evaluation for this year.
Yes, and if I recall his email, he had exactly that. We do need to do that this year, and I intend to, and so we'll probably have to do that virtually or some other method. But we'll have to talk through that with him. But no, I think that was clear in his email that we need to figure out when and how to accomplish that still.
Excuse me.
So that's that kind of board function and comment section, unless anybody has any thoughts or different things to bring up with Steve as we talk tomorrow. Okay. Well, kind of the last thing, I guess, is to remind everyone about our budget committee meeting on the 28th. Is that still on the calendar, right?
No, that's what we did.
No,
That's the one we canceled.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my agenda, but what's May 8th? May 8th.
Yeah, it's actually going to be
That's the publication.
May 26th.
That's the publication.
May 26th is the first one, yeah.
May 26th. We changed things, and my agenda's already all of a sudden out of date. So
Alan?
Yeah.
Just real quick on the board functions and comments. I don't know where we are with this, but I'm sure if there's anybody watching, they probably have a question about graduation. and what that might potentially look like. And if
Mhm.
there's any answers to that, probably a lot of people that would appreciate hearing if we're at that point.
Right. Well, that's a good question. Yes, fine enough point to bring it up. I think from the board point of view, and I think Chris Eberhard even mentioned earlier, we just don't know yet about what kind of governor's orders might be in place in June or not. Personally, I'd like to see something happen, some sort of form of recognition for our seniors, and if it happens later in the year or in the summer, I'm not sure, but I'm totally open to figuring out how to accomplish something.
I think the thing we realized is, and Ms. Veritek and I just talked about this recently, is that given the capacity with which we just learned we can change and create something, we thought we could, with the support of the community, probably pull something off in a shorter period of time than we would normally think an event like this takes to pull off. Just because we that way we're giving ourselves the gift of time. If we find out, let's say that nothing comes out until June 1st, and we say, well, it could be June 27th. We can make that happen. So we did not want to say with any kind of definite that, yes, we're going to do it, or no, we're not, or it's going to look like this.
Yeah, I think, I guess what I'm getting at, I wasn't looking for like if we're going to have one or not. I guess I'm kind of assuming that we're not going to have one on the date that we plan to. But if we've been considering what a backup plan might look like, it may not look like a graduation. It may look, it may be something completely different. But, to not have, that acknowledgement and, so what I'm asking is if we're exploring a plan B and a plan C, just in case, the traditional plan A doesn't come across.
Yeah, I assure you, we have thought and considered multiple things, from parades to distancing between people to there was a drive-in. People have used different things in cars recently, so the menu options grows as people come up with ideas, and I think we will continue to put those in our quiver, and then when we know what we can do, I think we'll be able to pull something off that will honor the graduates. And we're thinking about other ways to honor other traditions of passage as well, in some way that makes sense, because we know our seniors have lost a lot. They have. They've lost a whole lot of experiences that that it's never going to be the same. So.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
And just their families as well, because it's a big deal to the whole entire family. High school graduation's a rite of passage in this country, and it's a very big day.
No, totally agree. I think to some extent we do something here.
What about prom?
Prom could there be a prom at a later date? Those are things that we're trying to understand as well. But yes, we're thinking about how could things extend beyond what we would consider our normal time frame. So we've already thought about that and talked about that, and yes, we want all of those traditions to happen in a way that somehow at least gives students to have that experience.
And I just want to acknowledge, I appreciate the approach that you're taking, Chris, because we have no clue. We know that school's canceled, but we may get to the end of June and things may look different. And I appreciate the continued creativity in saying, hey, we're not, June 17th isn't our end date. We can be flexible and come up with something and acknowledge them. And so I appreciate that you guys are really looking at that. I know there's a momentum going on Facebook. First that's started, and I appreciate the community for being willing to step up, and I think you guys are absolutely right. I've witnessed in this community for almost 20 years when we have to make something happen, they step up and it happens. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic about that.
We certainly do not want to take away anybody's hope. However, we do not want to overpromise and underperform at the same time, because I think we don't want to disappoint anybody with something that we can't provide for.
Yeah.
Just thinking a little bit outside the box, is this something that we can pull off with administration staff, or is it something that we would have to, if we could do this, at a later date, would it need to include a new CBA for those additional days? I'm real, obviously I'm leery on the collective bargaining agreement. And so, I'm wondering if that would be something that we'd have to consider in a future MOU, that we would have to do something like that. Or do you feel confident that your admin staff is fully capable of pulling?
I think we pull that off. Jay,
Okay.
we get a date, we get an event, it'll get done.
Okay. Well, you'd have 100% support from me.
Oh, yeah, me too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
No, appreciate that. That's
Yeah.
I think something we need to do some form there. So thank you. Last note I had here, just a calendar note, May 20th, next board meeting, regular board meeting. I assume we'll be meeting in this fashion again. So we'll see if we can improve upon things next time. Huh? Anything else you would like to bring up? Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate all your participation and appreciate the help here tonight and making this happen, to those behind the scenes as well. So I guess with that, I'll bid you all a good night and call this meeting adjourned. So
Thanks.
Great. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chris Schofield.